When I was a kid, I loved watching the Teletubbies. They were so colorful and fun, with their silly dances and that baby face in the sun. But recently, I discovered something that made me see them in a whole new light. It all started when I found an old book in my grandma's attic. Grandma had passed away, and I was helping to clean out her house. In a dusty corner, I found a book with the title The Origins of Teletubbyland. It looked old and worn out, but I was curious, so I opened it. At first, it talked about how the show was made, which seemed normal. But then, things got really weird and creepy. The book told a story about a man named Thaddeus Wince. He lived in a small village in England and was known for making strange inventions. Thaddeus wanted to create something special for kids, so he came up with the idea of the Teletubbies. But he became obsessed with making them perfect, and his obsession drove him crazy. Thaddeus started doing experiments that mixed technology with dark magic. He created creatures that were part machine and part living being. These creatures were the first Teletubbies, but they weren't happy and fun like the ones on TV. They were in constant pain and had to pretend to be joyful. The book even had old black and white photos of these Teletubby prototypes. They looked horrifying, with empty eyes and twisted bodies. As I kept reading, the story got even scarier. Thaddeus Wince couldn't control the Teletubbies he created. They started acting on their own, doing things he never intended. The villagers that lived there began to notice strange things happening around Thaddeus's house. They heard eerie noises at night and saw weird shadows moving in the windows. One night, a group of villagers decided to investigate. They gathered their courage and went to Thaddeus's house. Inside, they found a horrifying scene. The Teletubbies were roaming freely, their twisted bodies illuminated by the flickering lights. Thaddeus was nowhere to be found, but his notes were scattered everywhere. The villagers quickly realized that the Teletubbies were more dangerous than they seemed. They tried to capture the Teletubbies, but it was impossible. The creatures had powers beyond human understanding. They could move through walls and vanish into thin air. In the chaos, one villager found Thaddeus's journal. It revealed that he had created a secret device to control the Teletubbies. Hidden deep in the woods, the villagers knew they had to find it and shut it down. The next day, the bravest villagers set out into the forest. They followed the clues in Thaddeus's journal, leading them to a hidden bunker. Inside, they found the control device. It was a strange, glowing machine with wires and gears. As they approached it, they felt a sense of dread, but they knew they had to destroy it. With a heavy heart, they smashed the device. The ground shook, and a terrible scream echoed through the forest. Back at Thaddeus's house, the Teletubbies collapsed, lifeless. The villagers hoped that their nightmare was finally over. They buried the Teletubbies and sealed Thaddeus's house, hoping to forget the horrors they had witnessed. Years later, the story of Thaddeus Wince and the Teletubbies was mostly forgotten, but the book I found in my grandma's attic brought it all back. It made me wonder if the Teletubbies we watched on TV were somehow connected to Thaddeus's creations. Were they just innocent characters, or was there something more sinister behind their smiles? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed answers. I started researching the origins of the Teletubbies TV show. I discovered that the show's creator, Anne Wood, had once visited that very same village where Thaddeus lived. Some say she found inspiration there, but now I wondered if she found something more. Thaddeus's dark secrets. One night, I decided to visit the village myself. It was a quiet, eerie place, almost like it was Frownson in time. I asked around about Thaddeus Wince, but the villagers were hesitant to talk. Eventually, an old man named Mr. Jenkins agreed to share what he knew. He had been a boy when the Teletubbies were created, and he still remembered the fear they brought. Thaddeus Wince was a genius, Mr. Jenkins said, but his mind was twisted. When those creatures came to life, they brought nothing but misery. We thought we had ended it, but some things just don't stay buried. Mr. Jenkins showed me the site where Thaddeus's house once stood. It was now an overgrown ruin, covered in vines and moss. As we walked through the remnants of the old house, I felt a chill run down my spine. There, in the rubble, I saw something glinting in the moonlight. A small, rusted piece of metal. I picked it up and realized it was part of the control device the villagers had destroyed. Holding it made everything feel so real. The stories, the photos, the fear, it was all true. But what truly haunted me was the thought that maybe, just maybe, the Teletubbies on TV were influenced by Thaddeus's creations. Mr. Jenkins warned me not to take anything from the site, fearing it might carry a curse. I heeded his advice and left the piece of metal behind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark lingered there, something that could never be fully erased. Back home, I couldn't look at the Teletubbies the same way again. Their cheerful faces now seemed like masks hiding something sinister. I wondered if Anne Wood had unknowingly brought Thaddeus's nightmare to life on TV. The Teletubbies' giggles and playful antics felt eerie, almost like they were mocking us. As I finished telling this story, I can't help but feel a lingering sense of dread. Maybe some stories are better left untold. Maybe some secrets are too dark to uncover. But now that you know the truth, can you ever see the Teletubbies the same way again?